Coming up on today's show, we're going to run through Todd McShay's latest and I guess first NFL mock draft for 2023. See who he has the Broncos taking in round 1 with the 49ers pick. Plus, I saw an interesting article about how maybe there's a path for Hackett to keep his job. I'm not buying it, but we'll explore it. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. I am your host, Matthew Peterson. But first, we're going to start off the show with some news that I don't like. I don't like one bit at all. Mike Klis tweeting out, per source, the Raiders are signing guard Nathaniel Moody off the Broncos practice squad. WTF. I mean, this was a player that I think if you're if you're in a top tier of Broncos fans, meaning you keep up with them 365 days of the year, this was a guy over the summer we were talking about hey, could he maybe push Risner for that starting left guard job? Then he got hurt in training camp. I was shocked he didn't make the initial 53-man roster, was on the practice squad, and I'm bummed. I'm really bummed he's going to the Raiders. The current projection for the offensive line in 2023 has a lot of vacancies. I have no idea who's going to be the starting left guard. I don't know if they're going to re-sign Dalton Risner. Who knows who's going to be right tackle? That's been a revolving door for the better half of a decade. But Moody was definitely someone I saw could be a future with this team, right? Be a nice interior six-man on the offensive line. So it's a bummer that not only is he getting away from Denver, but to go to the Raiders of all teams too, you're like, well, that feels like a double whammy. So that's a big bummer right there. Not happy about that. Doesn't mean his career with the Broncos is done forever, right? He's going to be a free agent after this year, so he could definitely come back to Denver in the offseason, but not ideal. All right. Let's get back onto the real point of today's video, which was examining Todd McShay's latest mock draft. Before we build up to the Broncos pick, we'll run through who he had going in the top 10. So number 1 overall, Bryce Young to the Houston Texans. Then he had Jalen Carter with the Broncos pick going to the Seattle Seahawks. That's a big bummer. Sure would love to have that pick right now. Will Anderson to the Bears at 3. C.J. Stroud to the Lions at 4. I don't know. Jared Goff played pretty well. Bijan Robinson out of Texas going to the Eagles at 5. Moving on here, the Falcons at 6. They took Will Levis. That's going to get Terry Fontenot, the GM in Atlanta, fired, but no big deal. Peter Skoronski. Okay. Now we're at the point where you're like playing deal or no deal, and you just hit one of the big cases you didn't want to hit. Because even though it's a long shot for Skoronski to fall where Denver's going to be picking, feels like you just hit the $1 million case. Tyree Wilson to the Raiders at 8. Ooh, now you just lost the $500,000. Paris Johnson, Ohio State. If it's not Skoronski, I'd love to have Johnson. These are both reaches, but the draft is fluid. And then Bryce out of Clemson going to the Cardinals at number 10. We'll get to the Broncos pick in just a moment, but who do you think is going to be the number 1 overall pick? I think this draft, sort of like last year, might come down to the last week or so. Is it going to be Bryce Young? Is it going to be Will Anderson, Jalen Carter? I mean, no one saw last year's first overall pick going to Trayvon Walker right around this time a year ago. So you never know. Let me know in the comments section. Now, in terms of offensive linemen for the picks in Todd McShay's draft, here were the 4 that went before Denver's selection. So Skoronski and Johnson we just saw went before Denver. Broderick Jones out of Georgia, 15th overall, going to the Patriots. And then Osiris Torrance, the guard from Florida, went to the Jets. So the 4 big offensive linemen all taken before Denver. And that made life difficult for Todd McShay. Let's get closer. Before the Broncos pick, it's the Giants at 20. They went Jordan Addison. I kind of like that pick, to be honest. At 21, the Commanders, they took Kelee Ringo, the cornerback from Georgia. Then at 22nd, a bit of a surprising-ish pick, but Jaxon Smith-Njigba out of Ohio State goes to the Titans after they went wide receiver in round 1 last year. And then the Chargers at 23 go Cam Smith from South Carolina, cornerback. And the Broncos at 24 take Jamir Gibbs, the running back from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Okay, did not expect to read that this morning when I saw Todd McShay's article come out. So that definitely caught me by surprise. We'll run through Gibbs and kind of get to know him better. Gibbs, I want to get this out in the open right now, may be a phenomenal running back in the NFL. But so was Christian McCaffrey, and the Panthers didn't go very far with him. So was Saquon Barkley for a stretch, right before he got hurt, and even this year a little bit. The Giants aren't going super far with him. You're getting the point here of running backs like Najee Harris for the Steelers in round 1. They kind of have their limitations. Is Denver's biggest need right now a running back? I don't think so, right? I mean, Gibbs, if we're taking a look at right here, he's an elite running back with awesome pass-catching abilities. His only real big con is he's not very good at pass blocking. That's where he needs to, work on his game. And that's fine. There's not many running backs that come out of the college ranks ready to block NFL defensive ends and linebackers. Another pro I've got for him, he possesses all the skill sets to fit into any scheme or system, right? That's a big buzzword right there. Is he going to fit your scheme? Well, Jamir Gibbs is definitely someone that can be on any team's roster and flourish, in my opinion. Now, we'll get to more on Gibbs in just a moment, but today's show is sponsored by Fetch. Let me tell you all about Fetch. Fetch is a super easy to use and free app that lets you earn rewards on literally anything you buy. Scan any physical receipt or e-receipt, and you will earn points for your purchases. And the process only takes seconds. You don't have to worry about where the receipt is from or what's on it. So, let me show you how simple it is. All you do is open up the Fetch app, press the orange camera button, and snap a photo of your receipt, then hit submit, and you'll see that confetti pop showing you that you've earned more reward points. It's a simple process. You can also click the e-receipt function to get rewarded for your Amazon purchases or other online shopping by syncing your email account. You can then redeem those points for gift cards at Amazon, Starbucks, or any of the other hundreds of retailers available. Fetch is available on iPhone and Android. Use our link, though, chatsports.com/fetch. Enter promo code CHAT when you are at sign up, and they're going to give you 5,000 bonus points when you scan your first receipt. That's the equivalent, by the way, of like a free $5 gift card just to get started. It's a completely free app, and the 5,000 bonus points is only for a limited time. So make sure to get started right now. Chatsports.com/fetch. Enter promo code CHAT. Get those 5,000 bonus points and start scanning receipts. All that information is in the comments and the description of today's show. Now, getting back to Jamir Gibbs, we'll throw some stats on screen for you all to see. He was great this year for Alabama. I know 850 rushing yards might not pop, but he also only got 126 carries, and he made the most of it. He averaged 6 yards a carry pretty much, more than that. So Jamir Gibbs, when he got the football, he was definitely explosive. Now, receiving-wise, I told you, this is also a big element of his game. Think kind of like Alvin Kamara, right? Where he might be a better receiving running back than maybe even in between the tackles, although he's still just as dangerous right there. 378 receiving yards, 9 yards reception, and 3 touchdowns. Todd McShay in his mock draft wrote this: I'd love to get the Broncos another offensive tackle. Me too, Todd. But there's a decent drop-off in talent there after Broderick Jones. Gibbs is pretty intriguing, even for a 3-win team. My 20th ranked prospect, he's elusive with bursts in and out of cuts and is a very effective pass catcher out of the backfield. And while Javonte Williams will return after tearing his right knee's ACL and LCL, it remains to be seen how effective he'll be off that injury while entering the 3rd season of his 4-year rookie deal. We kind of go back to where I was a couple minutes ago, right? Gibbs might be awesome, but is Denver one Jamir Gibbs, one great running back away from turning this 3-win team around? No. You're lucky to have a first-round pick. Take advantage of it. Make the most of it. Don't pick Jamir Gibbs so that he can get stuck behind a god-awful offensive line and an aging Russell Wilson and like a lot of other players on this team. Sort of get lost in the shuffle here. Running backs in round 1, I'm not a huge fan of. One, we've seen a lot of great running backs like Nick Chubb and Dalvin Cook go in day 2. I like that value there much more. But the way I look at it, like Bijan Robinson to the Eagles, that's the final piece of the puzzle for that team, right? The Bills, for example, that's the last thing they need. The Chiefs. This is not the start for the Broncos. Like, do not go running back here. And then as for Javonte Williams, I do believe it's very unfortunate, just the injury in general, but the severity too. I mean, take Saquon Barkley, for example. Remember, he tore his ACL 2 years ago. He really wasn't all that much last year. It took him pretty much 2 seasons, like all that year he missed, right? 2020, and pretty much all of 2021 to get back to where he is now. And so I do see where McShay is coming from in terms of just looking at the Javonte Williams element of this show. Hey, why would you pick Williams? Why would you pick Gibbs? You already have a running back. Yeah, well, Williams is in his 2nd year right now. He probably won't be much in his 3rd year and might not be, close to 100% in his 4th year. Now, who do you want the Broncos to draft? Handful of names out there. I would love for it to be an offensive lineman. Just because Todd McShay has the Broncos missing out does not mean that there is not going to be someone else out there. So, an offensive line. If the top offensive linemen are gone, though, here's a route I'd rather go than Jamir Gibbs. I think Gibbs will be great, just not with the Broncos. Jared Verse for the Florida State Seminoles. Great defensive end, especially if you lose Draymond Jones. Him or Foskey from Notre Dame, you got to replace them because Randy Gregory has shown he can't play a full season. Josh Downs, I'm totally in best player available mode, right? I think Peyton should go top 5, 6 offensive linemen. Whoever is highest up on your board when you're on the clock, take it because you need offensive line. But if you really think there's a huge drop-off, Devon Witherspoon, Clark Phillips, you don't need cornerbacks. Ronald Darby's coming off a torn ACL. But I am full on take the best player available, which I get with Gibbs, but just not at running back. That's probably the only caveat I have. All right, next up right now, let's talk about Hackett and maybe a path to keep his job. I can't believe those words actually just came out of my mouth. So an interesting write-up came across, Twitter.com, and it had some points, and I'll share those points. I think the biggest thing that has to be stressed when Hackett goes in to meet with the Broncos after the season, kind of an end-of-the-year performance, is, hey, I've had a lot of injuries, and I'll show those injuries in just a moment. I do want to give a quick shout-out, though, to some new subscribers we picked up here at the channel. Cord Faulkner, Josh Redlinger, Reyes Gaming, Judge Jury, John Romano, maybe relation to Ray Romano, underrated show. Everybody loves Raymond. Just some loves going back to you guys here. Appreciate all the new subscribers we have picked up. We are less than 50 subs, though, from 11,000 on the channel. So if you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do so today. All right, Hackett's path. That's where this article was getting at here. So the Mile High Report from SB Nation outlined a path for Hackett to keep his job. Now, it was a bit tongue-in-cheek. They weren't advocating for it in their defense. They're just doing their jobs, which is try to create content like me right now. 3-step plan for them. Step 1 was have a very strong and dominant offense the rest of the season. 2, no bonehead dumb coaching miscues. And then the 3rd was win 3 out of your last 4 games. And if you check all 3 of those boxes, it might not be out of the question that Hackett keeps his job. It's not happening. I'll tell you that right now. And I'll tell you why, but let's just get this out in the open. Hackett is gone after this year. I don't see a way he comes back. Now, I do think he's got a fair case to make of, hey, I know this year did not go to plan, but the injuries, I don't know many other first-year head coaches that would do this well with all these notable injuries, okay? Javonte Williams missing 9 games. Hamler, 6 games. Judy missing 2. Patrick the whole season. Garrett Bowles missing 8 games. Billy Turner missing 9. Cushenberry missing 5. Randy Gregory, what happened to Gregory? No one ever talks about him. I think it's just because they were out of playoff contention. There's no point in bringing him back. But that went from, hey, miss 4 weeks, come back after that, to, yeah, no one's even said a word about the $70 million free agent acquisition. Ronald Darby missed 8 games, and Justin Simmons missed 5 games. Those are just the notable injuries. Caden Stearns, for example, is a snub because I love him. But he also has missed a lot of time on IR. Listen, if the Broncos win the next 4 games by 50 points, yeah, Hackett's probably going to keep his job. But they're not. They're not winning by 50 points. And why do I know that? Because we've watched this team all year. And sure, they showed some life for once in the Chiefs game. But let's not fool ourselves. Let's not be prisoners of the moment. Let's not pretend like we have not seen this team stink since the first game. Since Hackett trotted out Brandon McManus for a 97-yard field goal with Russell Wilson on 4th and 4. So no, I'm not buying any path for Hackett to keep his job. Even if he doesn't meet that criteria, the issue I have is he's not going to. Why? What evidence do we have to believe, other than his team playing hard for the last 2 quarters or 3 quarters against the Chiefs to show any reason why, yeah, this team might turn the corner without Russell Wilson the last stretch of the season. But what say you? Do you believe Hackett is toast? Like, is he burnt, right? Is it, hey, there's no coming out of this hole? Yes or no? Let me know in the comment section. I think he is. I just don't see a path that can actually be attainable other than, yeah, win by 75 and make sure you look like Bama and they look like the school of blind and deaf the last 4 weeks. I appreciate all of you guys who clicked onto today's show. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Best Broncos YouTube content out there.